Hello everyone and welcome to my channel as we explore another great place. This time we are driving out to the island. Long Island, that is, which is connected to Brooklyn and Queens, but it's not part of New York City itself. However, until really the 1940s, many people who lived in Queens actually added Long Island to their address. We will visit Oyster Bay, but more specifically, Sagamore Hill, which is about 35 miles, about 56 kilometers, away from Manhattan, an hour drive or so. This was a home to Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th President of the United States. As you see in some of these images from Oyster Bay, it is truly a beautiful town to visit. And it's actually one of my favorite places to go to in case I want to take a break from everyday life, as not just the town is nice, but there are many amazing places to visit nearby, which hopefully I will get to show you in my future videos. However, in this video, I want to specifically focus on Sagamore Hill, the home of President Roosevelt, and show you some places in town that pay tribute to him. As you enter the town, one of the first things that really catches your eyes is this statue, a Rough Rider statue. Now, I know that the name itself sounds like it could be a name of a 90s rapper, but during the Spanish-American War in 1898, Roosevelt was a lieutenant colonel and served in the 1st U.S. Volunteer Cavalry Regiment, which was nicknamed the Rough Riders. But you know what? This name, I think, actually fits him. I'll give you an example. In 1912, there was an assassination attempt on him while he was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The bullet actually hit him, but instead of getting to the hospital, he first gave his speech while bleeding and then took care of the wound afterwards. Now that is a dedication to your speech. Next to it is a monument for those from Oyster Bay who were killed in World War I. And I just really love the quote on it. Let those who came after see that these men shall not be forgotten. You know, as a historian myself, seeing this probably made me more emotional than it should have. But okay, next stop. The First Presbyterian Church, which was completed in 1873, and Roosevelt as a young boy attended services here, and is actually a place where his father's memorial mass took place. As you walk in the opposite direction of the church, you come across the town hall, and in front, yep, you guessed it, another bust sculpture of Roosevelt himself. And across the street, we have a cool Civil War guns made in 1861. They were a gift to the town of Oyster Bay and unveiled by Roosevelt himself in 1903. They weigh in at 3,510 pounds. A brutal force back in the days. As we walk towards the water, we see a railroad museum. Hopefully part of a future video on this channel. And behind the tracks, we enter the Theodore Roosevelt Memorial Park. In here, there is a Roosevelt assemblage, stones, rocks, and other artifacts from significant moments in Roosevelt's life. For example, here in this position, what it says chapter 23, a bronze book recognizing Roosevelt as an author of 31 books. Or this one on the left, a stone from Camp Black, Montauk Point, New York, where he agreed to run as a candidate for the governor of New York. This park is really peaceful and actually one of my favorite places, but again, I want to stay focused on Roosevelt. So I showed you just a few places that hold his name in Oyster Bay, and now it's time to actually visit the house itself, Sagamore Hill. I do not really want this to be a history channel, but the life of Theodore Roosevelt is actually very interesting. He was actually the youngest president in American history. President John F. Kennedy was the youngest elected president at the age of 43, but Theodore Roosevelt was 42, so he was younger. And the reason for that is that President William McKinley was assassinated, and Roosevelt, being the vice president, took over at the age of 42. And he served from 1901 until 1909. He also faced challenges in his life. For example, in 1884, when he was only 26 years old, his mother and wife died on the exact same day. His mother due to typhoid fever, and his wife due to kidney disease. Just 2 days before, she gave birth to his daughter, Alice. So this really had to have a powerful shock on Roosevelt, so much so that he left for 2 years to live in the Dakota Territory, as North and South Dakotas were not states yet at that time. And he worked there as a rancher and even as a sheriff, but he did leave his daughter behind. And even though she grew up to respect him, she never quite forgotten this. Once he came back after 2 years, he once again took on the responsibility of caring for his daughter and jumped right back into politics. When he became the president, he is known for a saying, quote, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." Essentially, carefully and peacefully settle disputes while having a noticeable military power and strength backing you up. Hence, you saw his mediating in the Russo-Japanese War, for which he received a Nobel Peace Prize. Here are the Roosevelts relaxing in Oyster Bay in 1872. The property was bought in 1880 from the Youngs family, and in 1953, it opened to the public as a museum. Unfortunately, I was not able to visit the inside of the home on the day of my visit. However, tours are available. In some respects, the house was actually ahead of its time. For example, when a new room was added in 1905, Roosevelt made sure that it was built with electrical wiring, although electrical service did not reach the house until 1918, so about 13 years later. What is now a parking lot used to be a big garden with lots of vegetables, fruits, and flowers, as Roosevelt's second wife, Edith, loved them. Roosevelt remarried in 1886. And Edith had to be an interesting person as well. For example, here I found on one of the information stations, you can actually read a cute little story from Roosevelt's interaction with his wife on one of the days. The other day, the windmill was squeaking. I got an oil can and climbed up to oil it, neglecting to shut off the mill. Just as I got up to the top, the wind veered. The paddle swung around and took off a slice of my scalp. I started to climb down, but I am big and clumsy, and it took quite a while. By the time I got to the house, my face and shoulders were drenched with blood. Inside the door, I met Mrs. Roosevelt. "Theodore," she said, "I wish you would do your bleeding in the bathroom. You're spoiling every rug in the house." Now that is sarcasm I love. These would probably be very interesting conversation between us at breakfast. And I have something in common with Theodore Roosevelt. He loved to drink lots of coffee in the morning. Same here. There were also lots of animals on the farm, like horses, cows, chickens, rabbits. Here is a cutter, which is used for cutting hay or straw. And this is actually a sharpening wheel. The wheel rotates and the stone sharpens edges of knives and tools. A scythe for cutting grass or harvest. And here we have that windmill from that short little story I mentioned earlier. The mill actually pumped fresh water out of a well, which was used for hot water heater in the house or stored in tanks. It was actually used until 1990s. Here was the main road, which was unpaved and very uphill. Forcing many to use the back road, which you actually use today to enter the property. As shown here, there was even a tennis court on the property. However, even back in the days, the ground was uneven and branches of trees were in the way. However, for Roosevelt, the obstacles and difficulties in sports were supposed to build character and teach valuable lessons. Their dogs are buried here. The favorite dog was actually buried twice. Once in the White House under a rose bush, and now for the second time here. When it came to harvest, Theodore Roosevelt assisted with work on the farm. And so it's hard to believe these days that a president of the United States actually walking around performing tasks of a typical farmer. But times were different. Here on the right, you see a house built for Theodore Roosevelt Jr., the oldest son, and his wife Eleanor. Behind the house, we can take a nice walk through nature, as Roosevelt was an expert birder and contributed a lot to wildlife refuge. A boardwalk was built already in the 1880s to provide access to water through the marshes, which, as you see here, a little bit more up close, is a great place for a variety of life, like crabs. Driving just a short distance away from Sagamore Hill is the Young's Memorial Cemetery, where Theodore Roosevelt is buried on the highest point, passing away in 1919. His wife Edith is buried alongside with him. In fact, many members of his family are buried here along with his son and daughter. Keep your eyes on the stars and keep your feet on the ground. I think these are wise words. Especially in the world in which we live in today, such a fast-paced world of work and school and family, I think it's necessary to find few moments just to reflect upon the past and words like this. Always try to achieve your dreams, your passions, your goals. Create a world which you imagine, a world in which you want to live in. But at the same time, don't separate yourself from the world in which you live in and from the reality. And you sometimes need to work with what you have, and that means compromises or even finding different roads in life. So it's a very fine line that we walk in life. And I wish there was an easy answer to life, but I haven't found it yet. I hope you enjoyed this short little walk with me, and I wish you all a safe and adventurous week. Until next time, take care everyone.